wanted to give you a quick update. Down the sound. Yeah, just wanted to give you a quick update. I'm just following up on my boss's promise. The score, New Zealand, Australia. It sure shot is going to be a New Zealand win. Australia all out at 151, 31.2 overs. And they are just about 15 runs. The last I checked, 15 runs shy of a win. And on the second match, UAE is first to bat. So. No, they're just starting. So.
Okay, thank you. So while that, yeah, okay, the slides up. So good morning. Thanks for taking time on weekends, match and everything. So we'll keep you updated. That's pretty interesting. My name is Siddhi Ashtekar. I lead the analytics practice for Accenture, India Delivery Center. Been with Accenture for last 13 years or so. Pretty much started the analytics and what used to be data warehousing and business intelligence 13 years back in Accenture, right? The first offshoring project. We've been there since while. So it's been good so far. Been in industry for about 18 plus years doing analytics. That's what I do for a living. That's it. Nothing else. What we will do today is a pretty interesting topic, right? So I would want to start with probably a little bit of show of hands, right? Can you tell me how many of you have gone through or done anything in data warehousing and business intelligence? Can you keep your hands up? Okay. 4 or 5. How many have you actually done anything on insights? Analytics. Okay, 2 hands there back. How many have you heard of data visualization? That's good. And how many, keep your hands up. And how many of you have worked on visualization? 2, 3, 4, oh, 2 here, 4 people. That's great, that's good. So let me get started. That's my promise, right? When you leave from this place, you will see data in a different form, in a different shape, okay? Let me see if I can keep up to that promise. So what is data visualization, right? Let's start with understanding essentially why do we need to kind of look at data in a very different fashion than what we've been doing till date. So here I have quick comparisons of what typically the bandwidths would look like if we map them to our senses, right? The innermost is the taste. Then you have about hearing and smell, which kind of computes to about 440 MB per second, which is equivalent to a low latency disk. If you go a little higher, which is touch, it's about 125 MBs per second. The best and the biggest perceiver of the whole world is sight, right? That's almost 1250 megs per second. That computes to almost a camera which is good 560 megapixels camera. We don't have anything like that still been invented, right? That's the amount of data that we capture or perceive through our eyes, and hence it is so important to actually start representing data in a way that you can use your visual senses and not your computation, right? You don't have to start using your computing power in the brain to see the tables, to add things up, to see the subtotals, to see things up, right? It needs to be perceived in one shot, right? And why do we need to do that? And I think it's the top is getting cut, but that's fine. If you can adjust it in time, if you can make it correct, that's fine. I'll keep going. So if you see the evolution of the all BI technologies, right? It started with good promises, but it failed to a large extent to get to the point that I'm talking about, right? You have bar charts and pie charts and line graphs. That's about it. Nothing more than that. But it had its limitation. We had good days to kind of cut out just bar charts. Perfect. Thanks a lot. Pie charts and bar charts, but it just stopped, right? It's still not good enough for our human intelligence to take it beyond that point. Right, so what are we talking about? We're talking about visualization which will capture your brain power, which will have more time span, you will have more attention span, it will have some compelling story, it will invoke some emotions in you, right? And that will keep you attached or locked onto the screens, right? We had some visualization examples in Srinath, if you observe them very carefully. There were tile graphs which had big numbers. That's just start of visualization. That's how you kind of capture the attention and you get locked down to big numbers and that remains in your head, right? So if I ask you how many employees are there in software engineering, you would know the number even after you go home, right? Had we kind of just put it in a table, it would have probably vanished, it would have evaporated, right? That's the whole concept of visualization, which helps you to persist and retain it and keep it in form of a story so that even after you move away from data, your brain still captures it. Let's talk about some examples, right? This is the basketball field, right? And I should have put up a cricket here, my bad, right? You would have connected more better. But let's look at this example. What you're really seeing here is the bottom part of the screen is where your goal is, right? And this is a specific player, which is Kevin Durant from one of the teams. And what you're seeing is what is his potent power of hitting the basket. Okay? Every red is where he's highly dangerous. He can make a very good throw, right? The size of each of the hexagons represent the number of scores that he has created from that spot. As you know, if you are far away from the goal post or the basket, you get more points. As you come closer, you start getting lesser points. So the whole idea is to stay out and still hit the basket, right? So the most potent or the most dangerous is the red zone for Kevin Durant, which means simply now I've taken the data from Excel spreadsheets, databases or whatever, and I've actually mapped them on the basketball field. I've taken the data to where it belongs and not into the Excel spreadsheets. The power of this has completely changed and transformed to the team now who wants to put up a strategy to block Kevin Durant from doing his baskets, right? I'll place best of my people on the front because that's where he's most dangerous, and his danger is probably at the left side of the basket, right? This is what data visualization does to your data, right? And you've seen this being used very commonly even in cricket, right? In the last 20 years, you have seen how the cricket has completely evolved. You see every single delivery pitch, how it is bowled, where people are hitting and what the strategies are coming up. Analytics is really transforming sports. But not just sports, I mean, it is transforming almost everything that we are doing today, almost every single thing. Is it something new, right? And kind of connecting back to Srinath, is it something that started only in the last 2 years? No, it didn't. It really didn't. The data visualization as a concept has been there for a very long time, right? Let's look at two good examples. Jon Snow, he was basically a researcher in medical field and more in medics and disease prevention and so forth. 1854, there was a huge cholera breakout in London, okay? Till that point in time, people didn't knew that cholera was a waterborne disease. They didn't knew it, right? There were huge deaths that happened in London, so you can focus on only on left-hand side for a time. I'll zoom it out for you. What he started doing was he literally went out with a paper and a pencil and a map, and he started putting black lines for number of deaths in this specific area that happened because of cholera. Simple thing, right? Just one line each for every single death that happened on the streets. He soon realized that there is a pump there. You can see a pump, right? And the maximum number of deaths are happening close to that vicinity of that pump. And he kind of raised the voice saying that the deaths are happening because of waterborne disease and not because of any virus or airborne diseases. He was absolutely ridiculed and he was like put up as a mad person, right? Because UK, sanitation cannot be a problem. That was their mindset. We are so clean, perfect, everything is right. That cannot be a problem with sanitation. But he put up his map and he showed that that's not the case, and he went on to establish the fact that cholera is waterborne disease, right? There is a pump, stands there on that street in his memory today. So if you go to Gatwick, you will be able to actually see that pump there, right, in his memory. On the right-hand side, what you have is Florence Nightingale. She had also worked in India for certain reasons. You can Google it up. But the whole concept of the Nightingale circle, or what you're seeing as a diagram there, has been invented by her. What did she do? She was actually a nurse on battlefields, and she was actually plotting the number of deaths that was happening by each month when there was peak of, I think, World War II, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not good with history though. But what she did was, very smartly, she plotted the number of deaths that happened because of the injuries, because of secondary infections, and the deaths that followed, right? And what she soon realized is that deaths are not happening because of the primary injuries. It's happening because of the secondary infections that follow it. right? And then she realized that the whole aspect of the way sanitation is managed in the hospitals has to be completely transformed, right? She again had to put up a fight. People didn't believe her. They said, nothing doing, we are doing everything that can be done. But then she brought in the whole concept of sterilizing your equipments. Can you imagine how powerful that could be? And we are now just users of it. But she brought in the whole concept of sterilizing the equipments and the post-trauma and all this. And you can see, as she went through his work, the red zone has gone away. Can you see that? Which means that the deaths that happen because of secondary infections completely vanished. When that's the power of visualization, it has to be dramatic. It needs to invoke reactions. It has to have ability to go and fight up a case and transform the way you're doing things. Right? You with me so far? Okay. So let's have some party. What did you just saw? What, sorry? Are you sure you read that? Just check out what it is there, right? Just a quick teaser. I mean, the words are all completely jumbled, but you are able to read it, right? I just flashed it for 5 seconds, but you were able to read it. Why were you able to read it? First and last, that's all that your brain needs. That's okay, and the brain can reassemble the words and get to the sense in a jiffy, right? That's what we want to tap into. We want to tap into that part of the brain to bring out the data in format that is very easily pickable, right? We should be able to convey a message within 4-5 seconds. That's the time that people have. They don't have more time than that. They don't have more time. They don't have more attention span than 4-5 seconds. So what are we trying to exploit here? We're trying to exploit these visual advantages, as it is called, right? The attributes of visual perception. It's the form of line, the thickness, the circle, the color, the positions of the dots or whatever, right? And the motion, if there is something that you can represent with motion. Can you see these dots moving actually? Can you see? Who can see the dots moving? 1, 2, 3, good, very good. That's the effect of this screen. They are not moving anywhere. Okay, so let's move on. Let's build the concept on visualization. Okay, is this good enough information? Glucose 128. What does it say? What does it mean? Sugar level for somebody, right? But is it good enough to know? I mean, whose sugar level, when, how, why? No, it's not information. It's not good enough, right? Let's build on that, right? Now I colored it in red, which means that it's above certain threshold. Okay, better than what it was before. Okay, there's a trend line. It's getting better because now I know that it's data across 10 years. So now I know a trend of this person, right? I know that I'm at this specific point. And I know there's a band that's getting highlighted, sorry for the projectors, but it shows the upper limit and the lower limits. It's a small gray band, right? So I know whether he's hitting the upper thresholds, bottom thresholds. It gets better if I add more parameters, right? Along with sugar, if I know his temperature, if I know his WBC, RBC counts, right? And suddenly now have a lot more information in a very small corner of the screen for last 10 years. What you're seeing, that small line, is called a spark line. It's called a spark line, right, in the visualization terminology. It has compressed 10 years worth of data that has been systematically collected. I don't think anybody does in India, unfortunately, but you will get such data in other countries, right? We are getting there. I'm sure we are getting there. But what I'm talking about is, on this screen, is data density, as how do you compact large amounts of data in a very small space, real estate, such that you can just see this image and you can absorb it completely in one shot, right? Not more than few seconds. Let's look at the second example. Monthly unemployment rates across 76 to 2009. That's almost what? 30 years worth of data, whatever, right? But it's talking about across all the states, 30 years worth of unemployment rate. Again, it kind of gives you a quick comparative. It gives you highs and lows. It gives you how the states compared with each other. Within the half screen, you are able to actually perceive what's happening within US economy, right? Another example, it's called heat map, right? And I'm actually giving you examples of the basic building blocks of a visualization. This is called a heat map. I'm sure you have seen these maps. But this is 1 million customers, telecom customers, all compressed into a heat color map, so that you know that if I just select a small corner of 10,000 employees, I can go and do some specific campaign for those employees, right? That's the power of compacting things in a way that can be consumed fast it could be perceived, and doesn't take much space. Why do we need less space today? Because if you see, and I'm not putting that up for question, because started to use iPads and even phones to take decisions, and it needs to fit into small format screens, right? It needs to get as compressed as possible. So it is art and science, like Srinath mentioned, that it's basically about the craftsman putting the entire end-to-end. We talk about the visual aspects of data visualization, right, which is the creative part of visualization. So as we start getting creative, it's bound that we can actually make mistakes. We can get a little bit over creative, get carried away by trying to do something fancy things, which should be avoided in the visualization principles, right? What are those? I'll just give two examples there. Data ink, right? The less the amount of ink that you use for visualization is a beta visualization. That's the good visualization. Less amount of ink, which means if you print it out or you put it up on screen, it should be as minimum ink as possible, which means any extra lines, any extra 3D effects, anything that you try to just kind of spruce it up is not required, right? This is not kind of appreciated. So the example on the bar charts with 3D effect is not giving any additional information. Had it been giving additional information, it's worthwhile, but otherwise it is not, right? So over last 10 years, there are solid principles that have been built on data visualization, right? People like Edward Tufte, who has actually built, is the godfather for visualization. If you want to read about visualization, you should really follow that person. He's kind of built this whole concept around what visualization really means, right? Visualization kind of breaks down into different formats, right? And now we are getting into, if I've sold the concept, we're getting to get into technology now. Okay, so it kind of builds up into multiple ways. The first part is either exploratory or explanatory. What it really means is I'm kind of exploring certain data to find insight in it. I really don't know what I'm searching, but I'm searching something. Hopefully I'll find it, right? And explanatory is once I know what I've hit a jackpot, I want to put it in a visual that is very easy to communicate, right? The other side we have objective and perceiving, which is objective is I want to put up some numbers, I want to show that I'm doing good, my country is doing good, or my employment is following. But perceive is I want to change the way people are thinking about it. The two examples that we saw, right? The collar example and the nightingale. She wanted to really change the way things are happening. And the infographics and data visualization, infographics is built one time, it is not data driven. What Srinath put up as his solution, his product engineering dashboard with numbers, that's an infographic. And there were two more beautiful infographics in later part of the video, if you observe that very carefully. Visualization which is data driven. There are tools which will continuously upgrade, update, and keep the dashboards live. For the discussion today, data visualization is within the context for us, for software engineering and software products, right? And data art and business intelligence is extension of what people do, whether in media or in newspapers or even news channels. That's basically the data art part. Business intelligence is the traditional part, the extension of the BOs and the Cognos of the world. Okay, that is example of infographics. I'm going fast. So why are we talking about data visualization after 20 years of IT? Why just in last 2 years? Right, something dramatically really happened. The computation prices have kind of dropped like anything. Memories have become cheap. Disk has become cheap, right? So there were companies like Tableau, ClickView, Spotfire. Have you heard of these names? How many of you heard of Tableau? That's a good number. That's good, right? So they were sitting with technologies which is completely in memory, right? But they were not able to sell because memory was still costly. People were not picking it up. There were only very few people who were actually spending that on the memory and putting up Tableau or ClickView. As soon as the cost for, and then the line vanishes, but the cost really plummeted, these guys had their business. They were sitting with the technologies for 3-4 years on the fence. As soon as the memory cost dropped, they started to make their business. They made their business so much in last 3 years that the whole landscape has completely changed. Right? Let's look at it, right? Observe things very carefully. If you know what a magic quadrant is, yes, you know what magic quadrant is? Yeah, it basically gives a survey. Gartner gives a survey every year on year, right? Have put some animation on top of what they do every year. So you will see some people have vanished, some companies have vanished, some companies have dropped, some companies have started to move up, right? See who is moving up. Look what's happening in the leaders quadrant, right top corner. And then the latest 2014. I actually have a 2015 came up last week. I couldn't integrate it in, but that's pretty much is the picture. The IBM, the SAS, the MicroStrategy, the Microsoft, all have plummeted. Tableau, ClickView have gone right at the top. Right? Why did this happen? It happened because these guys were providing visual analytics and not BI. Right? All that we just talked till this point, they are actually enablers to bring you that in a very easy fashion. It's no longer difficult to create good visualizations if you have the principles in place. And that's the reason business started buying them. And they picked up as Tableau is now the number one, right at the top with a couple of miles of distance between the second best. Okay, there are others that you guys have to follow, given that you are in a different space. Tableau, yes, of course, but there is a lot that can happen on the custom side. So there are JavaScripting packages like D3 that you should follow. There's a lot of work that you guys do with Adobe, and some of the traditional players have also started to play in this space, right? We'll look at some of the examples. What I'll do is take a pause from theory, right, and go into maybe one or two quick demos. And somebody needs to keep me on time. Yeah? Okay. Is that the best that we can do from the width perspective? Okay, let's get started. I don't want to waste time. So this is basically not a great data per se to analyze, but it's accidents data from US. Okay, it's accidents data which is freely available. Government puts up this data very regularly on sites. You can actually download and start using it. It's real accidents data for a specific year in US. They have 10-20 years worth of data. You can really do a trend analysis. You can analyze the different brands of cars that got stuck into an accident, which states have got biggest number of accidents. You can actually plot down the accidents down to latitude, longitude on a street and analyze the data so that you know what are the heat maps for accidents, right? I'm going to quickly run something out here. It's actually a heat map and I can change it and so what I'm doing is so I have a heat map which shows big accidents. The colors are getting faded because of projector, but if you can see the small red blocks, those are accidents with big fatalities, right? That's more than, unfortunately, more than 30, more than 60 or whatever, right? I have now a power to kind of understand by time trend, understand by a geographic map where the accidents are happening. I can actually do something even better than that or more intriguing, right? I can actually fire a reverse Google search and I can actually look up all the details for that specific accident, right? I'm almost kind of reverse engineering an accident, picking up the attributes, going to Google and getting more information. This is something which is great for a corporate because let's say if it's an insurance company and it wants to analyze the data and it wants to, there you go, the results are out, right? And I don't want to basically click on the links because it has got some videos and stuff, I don't want to play them out here. But you will find data to that level. There are first-hand reports from the reporters reporting from the accident. There are live videos of burning buses of all. But it all kind of builds up a repository or information that an insurance company or a car manufacturing company would want to know about accidents. What are the trends? Which cars? When? How? Why? Right? So you can actually go and change the way you do the business or the way people live. I'm going to pull up one more and then go back to slides. So this is, we talked about a lot of Internet of Things. We talked about connected devices. We talked about telematics. Durya mentioned about how cars are getting more and more smarter where you have devices sending out data every minute, every second, right? This is data from telematics. It's a huge spaghetti to start with, but let me start cleaning up this graph. What you're seeing here is, we are doing a claims analysis, right? I chose examples because we have got a lot of insurance guys around in this room. So we have claims amounts and we have data coming in from the telematics devices that are fitted in car. What does this device give you out? It gives out continuously beeps of data. How fast you're going? How are you turning? Are you going too fast? Are you braking too often? Right? And then I can look it up with your other demographic details, select some of the high claim amounts, and immediately start seeing correlation with some of the other variables that go into the claim making. Right? I have transformed a huge amount of telematics data, petabytes of it, using big data platform, using a data visualization like D3, and transforming it into an insight which now the actuaries can use to either create a pay-as-you-use product or to underwrite the business more smartly. Right? There are n number of ways you can do it. Right? What do you see here? You see that the mileage bar, if you can see that, the lines are spread very evenly. There is no specific relationship coming out from mileage, which means it's not worth looking at mileage. Right? But if you look at the braking and cornering, there is certainly happening. The entire high claim amounts, the lines are going down to specific ways of driving with braking and cornering. So now if you can tell people that I will incentivize you, I'll give you a 20% drop in your premiums if you don't drive over 80 miles, and when you're driving over 80 miles, don't brake when you're driving at that speed. If you consistently show me that behavior, I will give you a 20% drop in your premiums. That's what is happening today in most of the Western countries. It has started to catch up fire, and telematics will probably be defaulted in cars as we get into next 4 to 5 years, even in India. Right? They are coming pre-fitted now in cars. Right? So the amount of data that it will explode and the impact that it will have on the product engineering team, when you're talking about, let's say, the policy administration systems or claim systems, they need to be using this analytics at the back without even people knowing about it. It needs to be really mashed up and be available to processing, because next time you get a claim, a small model needs to run in the background, and you need to be aware whether it is a fraud, whether it is right, whether it's wrong, or so forth. Okay, if that woke you up. So the data visualization examples, right, are fascinating because it brings out a lot of story. There's a lot of varied things that you can do with them. There's a whole panel of things that you can do: histograms, spark lines, slope graph, small multiples. We looked at some of the examples as we went through the slides, right? Network diagrams and so forth. So it's very evolving. Something like D3 as open source library has got 2,000 odd data visualizations, 2,000 people contributing them every single day. That's the amount of knowledge that's available. Going specifically down to software products, right? I just picked this up as an example. It's not a great example, but I just wanted you to go with a thought that how are you going to carry the data visualization into your work, right? I'm sure every one of you is creating screens with Java, with whatever programming languages you are using. How do you start embedding analytics into it? How do you start embedding visualization into it, right? So it's a simple medical management system for Liz Hansen, and what you see here is the amount of medications that she is taking, the dosage that she is taking, the surgeries, the operations she might have gone down, mapped down to the body organs and so forth. The screen becomes amazingly more informative than what you would have had with maybe 20, 30 odd fields with a table down and maybe a 1 or 2 graphs. That's it. That's what the best that we would have done, right? But how do you really transform this whole experience for either people, the medical practitioners who are using it, the doctors that are using it, or for the end patient as well, for them to monitor whether they're taking the medications right, what are the impacts, what are the benefits, right? That's how the next generation softwares are going to be, right? How many of you have got kids here? Wow, all of you, right? Keep your hands up. How many don't like vegetables? Not you, your kids, right? Mostly kids don't like vegetables, right? But they like pav bhajis. They like pav bhajis, right? Because vegetables are all mashed up and the kids do not really know when the vegetables are mashed up. That's how the analytics is going to be in the future of softwares. People will not know that analytics is running behind the screen. It will be so embedded and mashed up that every single decision from your starting morning day till another day will be actually run by a small brain that is working behind your software. And that's how we are going to get to the dream world that Srinath was painting for us, the future of the software-driven world, right? Analytics is the core. We're doing a huge amount of work in analytics in Accenture. We work very closely with the softwaring group, and that kind of, there's continuous pollination in terms of ideas and thought process. Okay, any quick question, 1 or 2? Okay. Very good question. Absolutely. So the business intelligence was meant to plot a specific trend, right? Show your sales by region, by geography, by time, by product, right? The visual analytics is actually taking that beyond that point and saying why it was happening. Why did it happen? Why did this product got sold? That product didn't get sold. Was there some external influencing factor that we are not seeing on this screen, right? So business intelligence is actually, literally just seeing what you're seeing on the road, right? But visual analytics is actually predicting what's going to happen on the road, right? It's taking it beyond that point and telling you why things are happening, and your ability to kind of understand that intuitively is what visual analytics is. BI actually failed to do that. It just presented the data in a fashion that business could consume, but they couldn't take it back to action it out. And I think what the visual analytics promises, it will transform the data into the information or the insight, right? But how do you transform the insight into action is what visual analytics will do for you. Yeah, thanks.
May I just add?
Yeah, please.
There are a couple of things at play here, right? One is really the journey. You can actually even develop this down to Maslow's hierarchy, right? When your base things are met, you want something better. Now, how did business intelligence really get born, right? I mean, in the old days, it was all production reporting, right? And
MIS.
people had to go to the IT departments and start getting their reports. And suddenly you want to say, okay, in this geography, how did I do? Oops, sorry. You didn't ask that question, so I didn't have the report.
Yep.
Right? So ad hoc query and analysis really took over, and the business objects and cognises of the world played very strongly in that space. Now, once you have that out of the way, which is largely telling you the what that's happening, and maybe also allowing you to ask a few questions and on the fly serve yourself, right? The next set of things that you see here is taking over. Maslow's hierarchy again at play. But I think there is a journey. I mean, you should follow things like TWI, which has good
Absolutely.
BI maturity cycles and so on and so forth, which talks about how we grow, and some of the visualizations that we've seen today is fantastic. So that's where it's all going. You have it's an evolving thing. No matter what you take, it's an evolving thing.
Absolutely. So I've got about 2 minutes more. So I'm going to close with something which I've been working on for last year plus, right? And I'm going to really bring this whole evolution to a point where I can prove the fact that how data visualization really works, right? It's not a client experience because I cannot really bring my client work here, but it's something which I'm doing on the corporate citizenship responsibility, CSR, right? How many of you are from Mumbai? All of you, perfect. So this is something which you should certainly know about. The machine is increasingly getting slower. Just give me a minute, and this will take only a minute. Okay, so I talked about data visualization, and I talked about the impact that it can bring about, right, and the way it can change the lives of people and so forth, right. So here is a quick story, right. I've been working on this for about a year. There is huge number of deaths that are happening for rain trees in Mumbai. If you have experienced or seen this, you will find if you are in suburbs, there are huge massive trees which are absolutely dead in Mumbai. I don't know how many of you have observed it, but there are about close to 5,000 trees that have suddenly started to die in Mumbai, right? We observed this about 2 years back. There was obviously a lot of reporting that happened. So that was dead trees that you saw in the previous photo. There was a lot of local reporting that happened in small newspapers in pieces here and there, right? But there was no collectively any forum or any discussion happening on that. Me and my colleague, right, in Accenture actually created this small app which we can take on streets, do some quick surveys, right? map the exact latitude, longitude of each tree and plot them on Google Maps, right? And that kind of would really probably give us some insight in terms of why these things are happening. So we did that. Obviously, of course, we needed a lot of data, right? We couldn't potentially go across the entire Mumbai and get the data. So we put up a page on Facebook, and we asked people to download this app and start getting the data for us, right? Crowdsourcing, social media, crowdsourcing, mobility, right? We gathered the data and we started to map them on Google Maps, right? We used Google Fusion Tables, if you have heard of them, or Google Large Tables, and we really started plotting all these trees. What you see on the map is red is a dead tree, yellow is potentially dying, and green is still good, right? Once we started mapping these trees out, we really saw something outstanding, right? One, that we noticed that trees have got some insects or bugs on top of them, right? And there is a specific pattern in the way trees are dying. Thousands of trees, right? We draw out some heat maps. Again, it's continuation of data visualization. And then we started to kind of infer certain things out of the analysis, which is that trees are actually dying where there are concrete roads, where there are cross intersections, and where there are huge construction works happening. So you can see that from the maps that there are intersections where the trees are dying, or the trees are dying where they're aligned with the streets, right, the avenue trees. Where there are huge grounds, play school grounds, if you can see peripherals, all green spots, trees are not dying there, right? We latched onto something. We had something to go and start talking to the authorities. Till that point in time, we were just shooed off saying, this is something not worth looking into. We took up this data, we went to we talked to some scientists in Bangalore saying what needs to be done. They gave us some antidotes on the insect that was eating up this. We created some analytics program which kind of predicted where the rain trees would be. So you're seeing a prediction model of rain trees so that the workforce could be smartly allocated in terms of where the work should be started, right? We engaged with the authorities. That's me actually started to action out now. So that's where the analytics actually turn into an actionable work. We started to kind of start putting pesticides or antidotes and so forth. And last one has got to come, right? It has got a big press release, almost 12, 13 papers covering it, news channels covering it, with Accenture doing some great job on field for Mumbai, right? So that's the power of analytics or visualization if put in right spirit. I'll just close my note with that. Yeah, thanks a lot.